What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, finally bringing you guys a brand new video. Today's video going over the Week 17 Monday night game between the Lions and 49ers. So this one's actually pretty good for Detroit, right? It's a big game for Detroit because if they lose, next week is going to be very interesting between them and Minnesota. If they win, yet again, it's still very interesting, but puts them in a better spot against Minnesota next week. For San Fran, the season's already over, technically, as far as them advancing, although they do have this game and next game to play. So it's not like they're just going to lay down and die. Obviously, they're going to play hard. They're going to, try to build off of some things. Obviously, Brock Purdy's going to be there. George Kittle more than likely going to be there. Figuring out who the running backs are going to be. Garando on a rookie contract, so he's more than likely returning. Juwan Jennings got extended, so he's going to be there as well. I don't know about the Debo Ayuk situation. We'll have to see how that plays out. But going into it, something you're not going to see on something like DraftKings and stuff like this is the injuries to the offensive line that San Fran has. I do believe it's now 3 different offensive line starters out this game, possibly 4 if you consider one of the guards being a backup to somebody who is out. So we could say 4 different offensive line starters out for San Fran. One thing San Fran has done a really good job of is finding linemen that plug and play for them. So against this Detroit defensive line, I'm not as worried. Everybody knows Detroit's defense has been one of the worst units banged up by injuries this season, top to bottom, and that is a positive for the San Fran offense. So starting off at the top, Jahmyr Gibbs, $1,000 more than Amon-Ra St. Brown, the only 2 players above 10K on this slate. So Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, is in a really good spot. Although he is the most expensive player on the slate, I do think it's a really good matchup. San Fran, I think a bottom 10 defense against the running back, so easily somebody to target in this one is Jahmyr Gibbs. Going to his teammates, Amon-Ra and Jared Goff. Look, if I'm going to take, 2 of these guys off the top here, I'd much rather go the Gibbs-Goff route. And then I could pay down at somebody else other than try to get Amon-Ra and Goff and not target the really good running matchup for Jahmyr Gibbs. So, you have 2 other people that I guess we'll just go to right now. Jameson Williams at 8K if you wanted to get there and still have a wide receiver against San Fran. Or we go all the way down to 5,800 and we get Sam Laporta, who Sam Laporta's been getting more involved than he was in the beginning of the season. We did not see a lot of Sam Laporta to start. They were really good at using David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. Amon-Ra got his work when he needed to. Jameson Williams took a big step up. But now it seems like with kind of the injuries to the running backs, I don't know if it's later in the season, just trying to get, some chemistry going, getting Laporta a little warmed up before the playoffs. But he has seen more targets later in the season than he did in the beginning. Against San Fran, they're another team that's had some injuries. Drake Greenlaw is going to be out for this one, so that's a huge loss for them. It's good for Sam Laporta. So at 5,800, if you wanted to go Goff and then get someone like Sam Laporta as well, that's a very good possibility on the slate. But I do really like Brock Purdy in this one. I already mentioned how banged up Detroit's defense is, especially in their secondary, and you still have a really, really good offense, on paper, right? When they're clicking, they're I'm going to say a top 5 offense. I think we all know how good this offense can be. That's when they're clicking. It's not all season, no. But when they're clicking, they're a really hard defense to stop. And that's, using the running backs. It's getting Juwan Jennings involved, utilizing George Kittle. But I like Brock Purdy. He's kind of as far as price, the guy I want to have on my San Fran side is Brock Purdy, and then trying to figure out 1 or 2 pass catchers to kind of put with him. So Brock Purdy at 9,400, I think, is in a really good spot. And then you get a discount on Juwan Jennings at 7,800. Really like that price point for him. If you wanted to go a running back, obviously Guarendo's there. Detroit has still played running backs pretty well, even with the injuries. Guarendo, I like Guarendo when he got drafted to San Fran. Obviously, there was a lot of names ahead of him for him to become a contribution to this offense, realistically, right? You had CMC, Elijah Mitchell, Mason, and then it was Guarendo. So Guarendo now healthy, will be the top guy, and probably has the most highest ceiling out of all the running backs left on the healthy roster. But his price point is just really high against a team that has played running backs fairly well. Although I do think Guarendo has that potential for a ceiling game in this one. And that's getting utilized in the receiving game. It's not as much on the ground, but just getting those receiving yards. I like him. I just think he's too expensive to kind of risk putting in your lineup, right? I'd probably rather have Debo or Juwan Jennings for a cheaper price than I would Guarendo. Kittle's in a really tough spot. Kittle's gonna get his. He always will. That's just how the team is. He's a top 5 tight end in the league, year in and year out. We'll see stints to where he's not utilized. That's just how the offense is sometimes. He's just gonna block really well, but this has been one of the better seasons we've seen George Kittle. I just don't think I would rather have George Kittle than I would 2 cheaper pass catchers in Jennings and Debo in this one. So that's kind of where I'm looking at for the San Fran, for the top options, getting Juwan Jennings, Debo Samuel. And then the Detroit side, like, I'm okay with getting Goff, but I want to make sure I have Jahmyr Gibbs tonight. And then I'm okay with leveraging, not having Goff and getting, Jameson or Laporta. So that's kind of where I'm at. You can play Goff and Purdy. You just have to get very flexible with your down pays, and it's pretty hard to get Gibbs in there as well. So continue to go on down the list. Kickers, yeah, both kickers are in play. They always have to be with when you have 2 really, really good offenses. They're going to move the ball down the field. It's just if they're going to score. The only thing that's difficult is both of these offenses aren't afraid to go for it on 4th down, especially Detroit. But Jake Bates, since becoming Detroit's kicker, has been pretty damn good for him when he's needed to be 88% on the season. Hit some long field goals this season. So he's been a guy. It's just the risk of Detroit going for it on 4th down, especially. It's not a must-win game for them to get in the playoffs. They're already locked in the playoffs. But to get that, wild card bye, which is huge, they are going to take risks when they need to. Jake Moody, kind of the same thing. Although he hasn't been as lights out as we've seen him before, being on an offense that moves the ball down the field against a defense that struggled a lot this season, and a lot of that has to do with injuries. Don't get me wrong, but a defense that has given up a lot of yards. Jake Moody is in a really good spot tonight. I do think Tim Patrick's a good leverage play off of going Amon-Ra. Obviously, Travarius Ward is out, so that's a huge blow for the San Fran secondary. You're going to see Tim Patrick and J-Mo kind of see more of that. Amon-Ra going to be a big slot receiver. That's just where he always is. So he's going to go to the outside sometimes, but primarily he's going to be in the slot. So you're going to see a lot of Tim Patrick, J-Mo on the outside. So they're going to see, I believe it's Rocky Sin is their next guy up in that cornerback position. So Tim Patrick, J-Mo, going to see him. Ricky Pearsall, I'm okay with playing Ricky. I just don't think he's in that role yet. Like, we saw it down here against Dallas and Tampa Bay, where you saw some flashes, you saw him get some targets and stuff, but since then he really hasn't been utilized. It is a good matchup for him, don't get me wrong. It is a good matchup for him. He's not quite at that value price for me yet, below $3K, but he's hovering on that line at $3,600. So he is playable as far as not going to have a lot of ownership on him. The matchup is good for him. It's just him having to get some volume his way. And it's very hard on this offense that already has someone like George Kittle, Debo, the rising of Juwan Jennings. Garendo, I still think, is a good back for them. So it's hard for him to really get a lot of volume, which is worrisome for me. Craig Reynolds, I think, is a pretty good value piece, right? Detroit utilizes running backs, right? They've never, since becoming this team, they've never really just said, hey, you're the starting back, you're going to get all of the volume, all of it. And it's not how they operate. Against Chicago, still got 5 opportunities in that one, right? 4 on the ground and a target. You go and look at Vaki. 2 receptions out of him for 20 yards. Granted, it was in garbage time pretty much, but still utilized there. Kyle Juszczyk is a fun play, right? I think he's just always a fun play. He has maybe, 1 reception a game. You're hoping for that magical touchdown every now and then, which happens, once, maybe twice a season for Juszczyk. He's just a fun guy to put in. I'm not putting him in, especially at 2,400. I would not put him in. And other than that, there's not much down here. Like Brock Wright, maybe at 1,600. But with Laporta being in, we really haven't seen Brock Wright. So there's not a lot of volume or value down here that gets volume. Craig Reynolds kind of that cutoff at 3K. Usually we have, maybe 1 or 2 names, but we don't have any on this slate. So I guess, we'll switch it up. We'll make an example line and see what we do. So I want to get Purdy as a flex. Let's throw Laporta in there as well. So not doing the greatest. Let's throw Juwan. We definitely want Juwan in there. Let's see what happens when we put Gibbs in. Oh my God, Gibbs kills it. Gibbs kills it. I love Gibbs, but oh my God. So let's take Gibbs out. Let's put someone like Jennings as our captain. And then go to Gibbs. It's a little more manageable. So, oh man, I definitely want to get a big name Detroit pass catcher. Let's go JMO. We got 3,500 left. Man, that is tough. We're 100 off of even getting someone like Ricky Pearsall. So, yeah, that is kind of tough. So let's take JMO out since we have Laporta. And let's put Debo in. That leaves us 3,900, and we still can't even get Tim Patrick. So we get screwed off that. For the sake of the video, we'll go pass heavy on San Fran and put Ricky Pearsall in there. And yeah, that's showing how tough it could be of playing someone like Gibbs in your lineup and getting a top quarterback. It's really hard to get to Goff, get to Amon-Ra, get to Kittle if you wanted to play Kittle in this one. So just an example, just plugging in some players that I mentioned in the video I like, and then Ricky Pearsall, I guess. So hope you guys did enjoy the video. I will have a video going out tomorrow for the first look. I will have a video going out Wednesday for the Thursday slate, and then because of my work schedule, I unfortunately can't have the same consistent content. Thursday video, I will try to have an early cash GPP look for the main slate. So instead of having it on Friday, Saturday, we're going to have it on Thursday this week. So if you guys are interested in that, check that out. If you guys are interested in joining us for, the few weeks that we have left in the regular season, or the 1 week we have left in the regular season, but the few weeks we have in the playoff, if you guys are interested in that, our bets and props, our FanDuel side of this, not just DraftKings, check out our website. The link for that will be in the description. I will see you guys in the next one.